Well, thanks everybody for joining us to stay connected. I'm your host, George Klippel, and we've got a great show for you today. Joining me all the way from Chicago, my hometown, I have Frank Haynes, the president of Big Shoulders Digital Video Production. Frank, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great having somebody from a hometown, as always, but it's even better to have somebody who's using LiveU in one of the biggest cities and in one of the biggest production houses in the country. So if you don't mind, before we dive into what you do with our products, why don't you tell us a little bit about Big Shoulders?
Sure. Big Shoulders is a small group of folks. We've been around for 26 years, and we shoot for about 60 different broadcast television stations or shows. And we also have our own studios on Michigan Avenue that 30 different networks call home. These are folks who don't have enough continual work in Chicago to justify brick and mortar. So we're their facility. So we have trucks that go out on location with, cameras of any format and record. And then internally, we also have a strong post-production facility for editorial, and we have world-class graphic capacity.
So you said you've been in business now for 26 years. How have you changed and adapted over those last 26 years, and especially over the last year and a half with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, one of the things that differentiates us is that we have extremely talented people. It starts with having the right folks, but for that type of longevity, you have to be very good at the technology end, and that's one of the things that we pride ourselves in. Bonded cellular was one of those things. We're huge fans. And we really enjoyed having folks monitor a shoot, even though they weren't there. And in the early days, it was very difficult to do that. But what happened with COVID forced that at least 10 years into the future. So while we were always preaching it and trying to get people to do it, last April of 2020, people started calling us going, "Aren't you the folks who said you could do this?" And we're like, "No, we're the folks who are doing it every day. Thank you for calling." And LiveU helps us with that. It really makes us stand out. And years of going to NAB and all these other trade shows. When it first started, as you know, there was so many companies trying to do bonded cellular, and we were always rooting for LiveU, and we were glad to see that you were the ones who dominated the market and now hold your market share, and we're glad to be part of that little team.
What was the workflow that you were using and most known for before bonded cellular came into your world, if you will?
Yeah, so being from Chicago, you understand we have a lot of skyscrapers, and so we would be trying to shoot from somebody's corporate headquarters virtually in a canyon, and it's like, oh, there's 2 satellites you can hit from this alley, and they're not available. So, it was always a problem trying to do satellite media tours or live shots. And so, we figured out how to use the internet and to use video over internet. But in the beginning, it was not very cost effective, and it wasn't very reliable. And that's why we were so glad that LiveU came out. We started using it immediately in these situations where not only were satellite trucks not efficient, they were just cost prohibitive. And so people would not do live production because they couldn't afford it. As soon as LiveU came around, we were going from farms and every corner that you normally couldn't have done before because satellite was too expensive or too risky.
Yeah. So do you typically see people hiring you now with LiveU where you're going out and doing shoots where are you bringing out like fly packs and doing shoots that way? Or are you bringing things and sending them back to your control room and doing switched shows in that configuration? Or do you see both? What's the kind of vibe that you're seeing out there today?
We use both. Like one great example is we have a customer who they're like the United States Pork Council. And they have their own test kitchen, which is everything that they need, but it's in the middle of nowhere, Iowa. So if we were going to use that as the location to do a live broadcast, we'd be parking a satellite truck and it was, 3 times the cost. So now we show up with LiveU and everybody loves that kitchen and it's an easy location. It went from something was very difficult to pull off to something that was very easy and cost effective. So we see it that way, but we also see it where we would send 3 different crews out. Somebody's doing a live shot early in the morning, somebody's doing a satellite media tour that ends at noon, and then there's something else in the afternoon. So in the past, that would be 3 switchers that were out on the road. And now it's 3 LiveUs. They all come back to the same location at our office. We use the same switcher, same technical director, and that efficiencies and cost savings, allows our clients to do jobs that they frankly wouldn't have done before, or allows us to pass the savings on to them and they do more production.
So really that you're kind of boiling that down into an ROI for your customers, because that's one of the questions a lot of people ask us is, what's the ROI on something like this? And when they're looking to using a company like yours or looking to invest themselves.
Yeah, for us, it was easier as, we took how much we were spending on satellite media truck rentals or microwave truck rentals. And, it paid for LiveU, 1 month of satellite rentals was LiveU for a year. So it was a no-brainer. The other thing that we've really seen that we were able to jump in on with COVID was a way of not just saving people money, but quality difference. So everybody started using Zoom because it's free, but it looks free. You get what you pay for sometimes.
Right.
And so we did the same thing where you're a remote contributor, you can't leave your house, no problem. We'll plug you into this meeting and you'll be able to speak to the audience and it's interactive and goes both ways. But instead of it being a Zoom call, which could get throttled or the transmission, completely degrades, we were able to use LiveU and we look like broadcast professionals. And there's people who their reputation is important and they can't look like a free Zoom call.
How do you see things opening more as in-person events start happening more now for live productions? As the world kind of starts to reopen again, how do you see things changing and going forward for live productions? What do you see in the future?
Yeah, what I see is that again, it's been pushed forward about 10 years. A great example is we shoot something, we edit it, it goes to legal, it goes to PR, etc. And sometimes there's even reshoots. So now what we do is we use LiveU to let the folks who need to monitor the shoot do so while it's happening.
And do you see that as continuing and growing even more as we come out of the pandemic? And do you see that just continuing to become more and more as part of the normal process in production and live event streaming?
Absolutely. I see, instead of like 12 people sitting in the room, whoever the script supervisor is, whoever the continuity person is, they can monitor without actually being there. And that savings in time and travel is exponential. So it allows people to make more money and work on more jobs. And LiveU makes that possible.
Now, what's your makeup? What is your kit makeup of LiveU? What do you have in your portfolio? What do you guys use?
So right now we use the 600s, and we have one that's the 4K 600. So, but we have 4 LiveUs, and oftentimes we've had all 4 of them going at the same time.
So then you must have like a quad server as well, then.
Correct.
Okay. Do you use video return or any of the other options that come with it, or?
Yeah, video return is crucial, as I was mentioning earlier, like for the argument TV shows, like they got to see and hear each other, so that they can step on each other.
Yeah, I love the phrase that you use, the argument TV shows. That's a good, that's a good phrase for them. Now, you mentioned the U.S. Pork Board. What are some of the other projects that you've done that just come to mind that lend themselves to using LiveU, or that have been particularly exciting or unique that you've used LiveU for?
We had a press conference that we had to cover for the city of Chicago. So it was in the mayor's office, and they wanted it covered with 4 cameras. So there was an interview with her, and so, you know, close up on her, close up on the person being interviewed, wide shot, etc. But our exit time, they were very strict. They said you have 15 minutes to strike because we have something else coming in. And again, bringing a fly pack into City Hall, into the mayor's office and setting it up, we would have never been able to strike in 15 minutes. So we used 4 LiveUs and sent the signal back to the office, and we struck the place in 10 minutes.
Now, you know, for somebody who's looking to get into this, who hasn't taken the jump yet, or, you know, jumped into bonded cellular or an IP distribution or what have you, what kind of advice would you give to them, who's just, you know, starting out or coming from that satellite world or still using fiber or just hasn't, you know, gone into it yet?
So gratuitously, I would say they should rent from us to make sure they like it first.
Of course, of course.
That's the very first thing you should do, is just rent it once, and then you'll be hooked. You know, once you see how much it changes your workflow and the efficiencies that it creates, you know, and that way you can find the right product for you. You know, you could try it on different assignments without, you know, making the leap. But as soon as you do, you'll make that leap, and you'll be glad you did.
Well, listen, Frank, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I think this was very enlightening, and you shared some great stories, and we really appreciate you taking the time for being on Stay Connected, and wish you the best of luck. Go Cubs, of course, unless you're a White Sox fan, but
I like both teams.
There you go. There you go. That's good neutral ground. But really appreciate you being here and telling us a little bit about what your company does and how you use LiveU, and wish you have a great day, and enjoy the rest of this year, and hope you have many successes.
Yes, thank you. And George, thank you and your team for all the help that they've given us and support. We truly appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you everybody for joining us today on another episode of Stay Connected. We'll see you next time.